Okay. Hi, this is Jim Connell. I'm here with Delaney Marth, and we're just doing a college, post-college student, new career seeker interview. And I wanted to spend some time with her and just talk about her college experience, talk about what she's interested in terms of career. The reason I do these is to, A, it's fun. B, I always like meeting new people. I think it helps recent grads and students alike to kind of round out their LinkedIn, perhaps, have some content, and just give them some content to tell their story. So it's pretty simple. If you're a college senior or a recent graduate and you would like to do one of these videos, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to do it. It might take a while to schedule them due to work obligations and things like that. But I'm just super excited to have Delaney here to talk a little bit about what your experience was. So Delaney, let's just jump into it. What school did you attend, or what schools did you attend? And how were those experiences? How did you pick those schools? What was your process like? What was your experience like at each of those? And just talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So I started my first 2 years of college at my local community college, which is the College of Lake County. And then I did 2.5 years at the University of North Carolina, Asheville. So I started off at CLC, changing my major like almost every semester. I went from animal science to pre-vet to music. I was all over the board. And then I finally chose communications before going to UNCA. And so then I graduated UNCA with a communications degree. I really actually enjoyed CLC. I highly recommend community college to any high school student trying to figure out where they want to go, because I was able to save a ton of money. I was able to figure out where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do. I had like no idea when senior decision day came up in high school. I had no idea. So my parents pushed for CLC, I was kind of embarrassed about that at first, because I was like, everybody I know is going off to, big universities. They know what they want to do, whatever. And I had no idea. So I was able to work at my current job. I had the same job in high school. I coached gymnastics. So I was able to still work at the gym, do school, get all my gen eds out of the way in like really nice learning environment. I really enjoyed it. And then was able to decide to go to UNCA communications and all that stuff. So I really enjoyed CLC.
That's great. That's great. Did you, so when you landed on communications, take me to the time where you finally, kind of pulled the trigger and said, okay, I need to focus on this particular aspect of school. You chose communications. Can you just talk a little bit about that process? Because I know a lot of young people, they don't know, or they might have an idea of, hey, this is some, like you said, veterinarian school or whatever it might be, and say, okay, now I'm going to pivot over here. Talk a little bit about that process, and when you had the aha, like, I'm going to pick a lane and go.
Mm-hmm. So I have always been really into music and love watching movies and TV, and I grew up watching sports with my dad, but I think growing up, or like being in high school and everything, I never considered those as careers. It was kind of more of like, what can make me money that I would sort of enjoy. So that's kind of where I was with like pre-vet and like animal science, because I loved animals and I thought it would be really cool to be a vet and like, do all that. So the first half of my aha moment was when we had to put my dog down. They actually let us in the room to see that. And it was just horrifying. And I was like, I cannot do this for a career. I don't want to be a vet anymore. So that it blew up my whole world, because I was like, I really wanted to do this, but that was horrible. And I can't do that for my career. So I talked to my dad, and he has a friend who works in the music industry. So he gave me a few ideas of like majors that could kind of lead me into the music industry. And so then I was music for a while, but then I was like, I don't don't know what I can do with this degree. Like, do I have to just specifically be like a music teacher or a musician, which I knew I wasn't good enough to be like famous and have that be my career. So so I chose communications because I did a little research and saw it. That was one of the majors that his friend recommended. And I knew I would change my mind constantly because I was like, okay, communications covers film, it covers sports, advertising, journalism, music, all that stuff. So I was like, I know I'm going to change my mind constantly on what I actually want to do. So I chose communications because it kind of covers all those grounds. It covers all the things that I love under one course of study. So I would be able to change my mind about what I wanted my career to be without changing my major all the time.
Got it. Got it. So did you have, tell me a little bit about your studies. For example, was there a class that you really loved that maybe surprised you? Um, Tell me a little bit about what you enjoyed about, whether it's at CLC or Asheville, it doesn't really matter. It's the same college experience, but did you have any classes that you were like, wow, this is kind of surprising. I'm really enjoying this and digging in.
Mm-hmm. So I had to take a communications law and ethics class at UNCA. It was a required class in order to graduate. And
Mm-hmm.
people that were in the major that took that class before me just told me awful things about the class constantly, like how hard it was, how much information there was, how often like they would fail tests, and all of that was true when I was in that class. It was totally true. It was so hard, but I enjoyed it because the cases that we learned about and like certain media laws, like how they came to be, how like internet content is regulated and like the weird exceptions to the regulations. So that class, like it kind of snuck up on me because I was so prepared for it to be super hard and totally suck, which it was. It was really hard and I I scraped by, but it was really like it was so fascinating. And I contemplated like media law for a hot minute. And I talked to my grandfather who was a lawyer about it too. So that class totally snuck up on me. And then I focused on film at UNCA. So all
Okay.
the film classes that I took were so much fun.
Really, what did you like about it? The historical content or just the style of production, or was it what caught your fancy?
It was kind of just all the hard work that goes into films, you know, and I had a good time working on any of the projects that we did, whether it was just like a lighting or sound workshop in class, like during class, learning how to set up the proper lighting, how to, you know, do sound levels and what different mics do. And, you know, we talked about, or we learned screenwriting techniques, like how to write a script, how to like break down a script. So kind of all of that was really interesting to me because I've always loved watching movies, and I've loved like I always Google, you know, the little facts about the movies, little trivia and stuff. So kind of being behind the scenes and seeing all the work that actually goes into creating films was really cool to me. And I made so many good friends and had good memories on set of the student films that we did and just in the classes in general. And just being able to see the films that we created finally finished and put together was really rewarding.
That's a great feeling, isn't it? When you get,
Yeah.
because it is a lot of work. I mean, a lot of people think, oh, you fire up a camera and off you go. There's so much preparation
Mm-hmm.
and so much time consumed in doing something and doing it well. That sounds really cool. So that's kind of a segue to, you're out of college now. I know you're working, but
Mm-hmm.
is there a specific career track or any number of companies, one or two or whatever, that you have on your radar that you would, just in terms of a dream job,
Mm-hmm.
what would you like to do?
I think eventually my like top, like my really, really dream job would be on like a higher position on a movie set, like first assistant director, maybe even director, producer, any of those like really higher ups that have a lot to do with the creative process and the production process of films or TV shows. So I'd love to like start with a PA job, a production assistant job on a set somewhere, and then try to work my way up to a higher position. I would have to try to find a department I'm most passionate about, because that was the cool thing about the student films that we did at UNCA is we tried every position. So I've done audio, I've done editing, camera, directing, producing, screenwriting, and they were all really fun. I had a good time doing all of them. So I would kind of have to explore that more and find like a department that I would really like to focus on a bigger set. And then if I was able to reach, one of those careers, I think it would be cool to try working on like a streaming site show, like a Netflix original show or movie, or work for HBO or any of the major companies that put out like films, like production companies, Disney, Universal, what else?
Yeah.
Fox, any of those. I'm not really picky.
All of the above, right? Yeah,
Right.
it's kind of a, what's the right phrase? Prime time, I don't know. It's a really exciting time in this industry.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope you can land at one of those places eventually. I know it's a process and everything, but
Mm-hmm.
with all of the different series that are going on and the different production of these films has really changed. Obviously the Amazons of the world, the Netflix of the world that got into it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's only going to evolve from here. So I think the opportunities are really great.
Yeah.
And I can hear the excitement in your voice in terms of doing audio, doing script writing, all of that kind of stuff is really fun.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have some feelers out in those areas at all, or are you still kind of in the process of? Because I know you just graduated, and congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
So it's literally what, a week or two ago.
Yeah.
Do you have any feelers out there in terms of trying to land at one of those places, or tell me a little bit about what your process is going to be to try and get one of those jobs? Because I would imagine, geography wise, we're here in Illinois and you might have to move.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what's
Yeah.
going through your head now with that?
So I actually just got in touch with a girl who graduated UNCA a few years before me. My film professor actually sent me her number. And so I kind of just like, I talked to her on the phone and like picked her brain about, she does costuming. She's in the costuming department. And she's actually in Chicago right now, working on a few new series, I think.
Okay.
So I kind of just picked her brain, and she said she gave her number to one of her bosses just to have me, like, in case they need a PA. Or she was talking about COVID PAs, which basically would just be the people that hand out the masks to people and making sure everybody's safe and checking their temperatures, which I do at the gym sometimes. So I already have experience there. But so I'm like half no idea where, like, how to connect, but then I also have some connections. And my professor said that she would connect me with other film people who work in film that she knows. So I like kind of have connections, but I haven't explored all of them just yet.
That's great. What I've seen you do, you're taking advantage of the networking opportunities, and I think that's so critical. Making those calls to your professor, making the calls to the person that she connected you with. It's so critical because there's actually been studies done on the networking effect and impact. Usually it's a friend of a friend that ends
Mm-hmm.
up helping you make an entree into the career of your choice. And one of my big things, and I work with some students, and one of my sayings is, you just got to get in the building.
Mm-hmm.
Just do whatever you can to get in the building. And yes, if you're doing the COVID thing, at least you're in the building, you're on the set,
Right.
so to speak.
Right.
So that's great. That's great. Keep up the good work on that. So you've been through college,
Mm-hmm.
you're now graduated. Let's say hypothetically you're speaking in front of 25 high school students anywhere in the USA. What kind of advice would you have for them, especially the juniors and seniors who are going through what you went through? They may or may not know their track, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak. They may know it, but what kind of advice would you give some high school students?
I would say definitely consider community college, especially if you don't really know where you want to go. Because that I think was critical for me, at least, because I had no idea. That gave me a two extra years to figure out where I wanted to go and figure out what I love to do and what I would want to study. So I would say definitely consider that. um, Once you get to any whatever college or university you want to go to, I would say join at least one club or organization, because you'll find many of the best friends you'll ever have. And you may find something that you love that you wouldn't have thought before. I joined a club when I first went to UNCA that I was like, this, it was like event planning. And I was like, this is not something I really want to do. I have been in that organization every single semester since I started. I work for them, or I suppose I worked for them now that I graduated.
Yeah.
And my best friends that I have at UNCA were from that club. So I would say definitely join at least one. Work hard in your classes, but don't take it so seriously that you're not having any fun. Because I think college is a balance between both. You need to study, but you also need to have fun. And then finally, I think I'd say just be like authentically yourself, because people will love you for that. Everybody's weird, and you'll meet people with the same amount of weirdness as you, and you'll become friends for life.
Amen. Amen. That's good advice. That's good advice. I love it. I love your energy.
Thank you.
What did you struggle with? And not necessarily in class, but I think it was really, I'm a big CLC fan. Actually teach one course there once a year. And I have a daughter going there and another one going to go there for the same reasons you expressed. Is one, I find that the quality of instructors, and I'm not speaking for myself, but the quality of instructors are very, very good. And a lot of them came from four-year institutions. So I think community colleges in general get a bad rap, but especially when you went away, let me back up. Two things. You mentioned earlier that I don't know if you used the word embarrassed or not, but you were a little unsure because so many people were going away to school and you went to CLC. How did you deal with that?
It was kind of hard at first, especially like because I went to Libertyville High School and they had the whole like big senior decision day where everybody wears their college t-shirt. And we get pictures with, the flags, and, you write your name on a little poster and they take a picture of where you're going. So it was hard at first because I was like, I have to write, CLC on my little paper, and I don't have a t-shirt, so I'm not, wearing my college apparel or whatever. So it was hard at first, but then I think what made me like really okay with the decision was after like the first semester, the first year, I knew so many people that came back and did CLC anyway, or they transferred to a different school, or they stayed at their school but hated it so much, they weren't enjoying their time there. So I think that made me like really satisfied with my choice, because then I was finally able to choose a university that I loved and a program of study that I loved without having any second thoughts like other people. So I think that, and that kind of sounds horrible, like other people's, problems made me feel okay with my choice. But and I know that like it saved me a ton of money too.
Yeah,
so it was just after like the first semester or whatever, I was like, okay, this was definitely the best decision.
That's great. That's great. I know what you mean when you were talking about that. It's not, I'm glad I made the decision because I'm watching these other people suffer or whatever. It's just, it illustrates, it does illustrate that it can take time for some to figure out what the right fit is and things like that. And there's a practical side of it too. As a dad, I look at the practical side and I say, geez, it took, we spent a lot of money as a family trying to figure this out, and it wasn't a good fit. And is that money flushed down the toilet? Maybe not. It's part of the process, but at the same time, there are some very, very practical reasons why I think you discussed well there. I think it makes sense. So what did you do? I'm curious to ask all students this question, and it's really, how did you make a positive out of COVID? How did you kind of work through the whole COVID issue? Because I'm assuming you probably went to a lot of online courses. How did
Mhm.
that play out, and how did you manage that process? Did you struggle? Did you find that it was a lot easier than what, perhaps the media might tell us, or, whatever?
Mhm.
Talk a little bit about that.
I would say it was maybe like 60-40 for me. Like I struggled 40% of the time, but I was okay the 60%. At first it was really hard because all of my classes at UNCA last semester were all like hands-on courses. Like my senior seminar was media productions, and we were just starting pre-production on our final film.
Oh, wow.
So so the transition from doing that class over Zoom was so hard because we couldn't, especially because I flew home for spring break, and then they were like, don't come back. It's like, we're in a pandemic. You can't come back. So I had all my stuff down there. They wouldn't let me come back. So then I was trying to coordinate a film from here with all my people in Asheville, but we changed it and I ended up writing a pretty decent script at the end for my final project instead. So that was hard. And then they wouldn't let me go back to get my stuff. They kept canceling my flights. My dad and I were going to drive down there to pick up all my stuff. They canceled our hotel. So I had to have my friends pack up my entire dorm and put it in a storage unit. And I just picked up that stuff last month. So
Wow.
that was, yeah. So that was really stressful for me. But then this past semester, this fall semester, I decided to stay home and just finish all my courses online because I would have to pay the out-of-state tuition to be stuck in my dorm because I was going to be an RA, so I had to live in the dorms. I didn't have an apartment. So I saved money by living at home, which was a huge positive because my out-of-state bill was significantly less this semester. And then I was able to work at my gymnastics gym. We were open on and off kind of because it was really weird. It's hard to do gymnastics, but so I was able to work there. And then I was also able to work virtually for the organization that I was telling you about earlier. I was able to work virtually with them. So I could still have the job that I love at school, work with my friends, make money, but do it from home. So that was a positive. I had a good amount of friends stay home too. So I
Yeah.
wasn't like completely alone. We, talked and hung out safely and all that stuff. So that was good. And I tried to make the best of the situation because there was no noble solution or no end in sight. So I guess I try not to dwell on like the negative things like that. So, we didn't have an end in sight, so why dwell on that? Like stay
Yeah.
positive because it'll come eventually. And there were definitely bad days, but those just made the good days so much better.
Yeah. No, you've got a great attitude. You think it's hard to tell because I have a theory. My daughters will tell you, oh, you and your theories. Um, but I have a theory, and it's probably hard right now. I know it is for me, but especially as a student, you might need to get like 3 years, into the future to look back and say, there's a silver lining in all of this. And I think
Mhm.
in some ways, students have a huge advantage because of having gone through this. Number one, the future is online. The future is remote. I
Mhm.
mean, there's no getting around it. Um, we're going to get back to quote unquote normal, but things are just really going to be different in the future. And I have my theory is that having gone through this experience and kind of struggled with online, because the other thing is technology. I mean, we're going to look back and this technology that we're using right now, as cool as it is and powerful as it is only going to get better
Mhm.
and only going to get more advanced. Um, I mean, the next video we might do, it might be as if we're sitting next to each other in the same building kind of thing,
Yeah.
um, kind of a virtual reality type situation. But my theory is that the students that are going through this right now, as bad as it sucks, um, are actually going to have a little bit of an edge. Um, because they've been thrust into what the future is going to look like. Would you agree with that, or?
Yeah, I would agree. And I think that was kind of a benefit of me doing my job virtually, because I have that upper hand, for lack of a better word, from all my coworkers who had to do it, in person.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, this is a good place to wrap up. I can't thank you enough. Sorry, I noticed we had a little bad connection here with my Wi-Fi, but I think this will come out just perfect. And I can't thank you enough for your time. Good luck to you. Let's keep in touch. My network is open to you. If you see anybody that I'm connected with, or you have any questions or anything, and you'd like to get plugged in with somebody, I will do my best to help you in any way. I don't know a lot of people in the entertainment industry, but like I said before, usually it's a friend of a friend kind of thing. So Delaney, please don't hesitate to, shoot me a message, give me a call, what have you. I think the world of your dad, and super talented guy. I think he's a rock star. He's in the entertainment business.
He is.
So enjoy
it's
the
his
rest.
fault. It's his fault I'm like this.
Yeah. Oh, that's a beautiful thing. So good luck to you, and let's keep in
Thank
touch.
you.
And thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.